everybody. Hey, Bard Lord's here. Excellent. It feels right at home. Everybody, this is I'm Miss Jen, and we do this awesome show called Minute to Skim It, which is really spoiler-free reviews of the comic books that are releasing this week, at least as many as I could read. Sorry, it's just me today. Because of our change in staffing, I haven't been able to get my good friend Shanice back here to do reviews with me. Hopefully we'll get that back so that you guys can enjoy her awesome, insightful reviews. She loves her DC so much. She knows all the good things. I see Ken is here. Hello. Welcome, welcome. Behind the scenes is Jay, expertly making sure the show works flawlessly. We've been through a lot, Jay and I. We've been through like power outages and floods and all kinds of crazy stuff. We've figured it out. And even bad Wi-Fi. Expertly. Yes. I mean, I think you get to be expert level after going through, 2 or 3 hurricanes and all that kind of crazy stuff. All right. I will tell you, I'm going to try my best today. I read way more than I normally read. Huge stack of books because there's so much good stuff out this week. And I didn't even get to read all the stuff I wanted to. Like I didn't get to read Punisher #1 because it's a red band book. So it was a sealed book. So it was not in my pile. So I apologize for that. And there was one other one that was a #1 this week that I didn't get to read just for time. So I apologize for that. But I did read the stuff probably that you guys care about this week. Also, please throw in the comments. You guys have had a whole week to read and or kind of like absorb Batman #1. What did you think? What did you think of Batman #1? In our area, it was a huge seller. Big one. Big time release. And locally, it's sold out at most all the stores. We still have a few kind of variants that are available, so people can still come and buy it. But yeah, that blind bag version of it got sold probably out of the whole city by Wednesday night, I would think. Because I had people starting to call the store on Wednesday afternoon. So that's usually my sign, since we're pretty far north suburb, that usually I know the city itself is sold out of stuff if they start calling us all the way up here. So let's see if there's something this week that's worthy of a sellout. Let's try. You need more to form a full opinion. I've heard a lot of that. And actually from Shanice, Shanice has already read #2 because she got it as a PDF. She said that once you get to #2, you'll be like, aha, I got it. I really did like the difference that they gave us in normally Batman's all about like the bad guy, like knocking that guy out. It's the first time I've seen him actually be like, you should finish this guy, but not do it. So that was kind of cool. All right. Future is. I hope you guys are reading and enjoying this series. Hey, Nick. I just think it's a really cool idea to have a fully formed story that's around characters that they themselves are part of, kind of like the really deep knowledge part of what happens on the internet. Not just regular hacking, but just like internet security and all those kinds of things. So the characters themselves, that's what they do. They're a team. But what the fun thing is about for us as readers is that there are a bunch of capture the flag challenges in the book hidden, and or kind of like sometimes they point them out to you. The really hard ones are very hidden, which is good because probably those are the ones that are hardest to hack. I actually have a local person who bought the Kickstarter version from us, which I think has got issues 1, 2, and 3 maybe in it, and they said that they've been trying to figure out some of the capture the flag challenges, but they seem like way smarter than me. Like I wouldn't even know where to start with a challenge. It's like a big string of numbers. What do I do with that? I don't know. Maybe I'd put it in the Google search bar. Would that get me anywhere? I don't know. I'm just not one of those kids that grew up in deep computer era to be able to know what to do with it. You don't really need to know how to do any of the capture the flag to enjoy these books. But if you do participate, then you should absolutely register. It mentions it a couple times, usually in its lead in, and there's usually somewhere else in the book. It'll tell you where you should go and register to be in the leaderboard. So I know that Kyle is still working on his points. The next Kickstarter is funding lightning fast. Oh, that's awesome. That's good to hear. So I think they're kind of like got themselves set up to do 60 issues is what their hope is for this series. And I read today, I didn't get a chance to click on the article and try to figure out exactly what it was saying, was that I think that if you either, I don't know if it's the Kickstarter if you back or some other direct way to get feature is, they'll give you money to spend at your LCS. So you're still actually supporting your local comic shop. So look into that. If you don't have a direct LCS, I don't know how it all works, but we'll try to let you guys know. When we know that information, we'll let you guys know that information. So, hey, Triple B. So anyway, this one's another great issue. A lot of complex attacks that they're trying to figure out. Just think, it's not really superhero. It's more of a team trying to, prevent like world chaos, I guess. So, cool book. All right. Undead Iron Fist. So, if you didn't know, Danny Rand is dead. So, he can't really do anything. But, like anything else in comic books, if you really want to bring a character back, you can. Why not? So, this is kind of an interesting tale. It really gives us a way to have him back, but also bring another, because the Iron Fist passes from person to person, that power. And in this book, you get to see a past fist show up. And also you get to see I think that the white dragon is the embodiment of the thing that gives him his power. And the costume design is really cool. If you ever wanted to see something come straight out of the grave, that's kind of what we're seeing here. It is really dope. Oh, and also the thing I like is that whenever he fights in this book, I don't know, maybe it's been this way all the time, but it'll have like the name of the fighting move he's using. I'm just going to make one up. Prancing Pony Punch. That's not one. But it's cool. It actually tells you what the move in is and why it looks so cool. There's a lot of pages of fighting action in this book. Not as many, like if you don't like heavy words and you want to just sit back and enjoy a bunch of really good art, that is definitely present here for you. Give it a try. There's a bunch of books that are, and I think on the inside it actually gives you all the ones that are coming out. There's a bunch of really neat Marvel books that are not main storyline aimed, more just interesting tales for characters we just haven't had very long. Fing Fang Foom's brother, Ding Dang Doom. That's not true. I don't remember what's the dragon's name, y'all? Oh. It took me a long time to remember Khonshu for, if you're going to do Fist of Khonshu for Moon Knight. There's a lot of those kinds of characters that I'm like, or Bast for Black Panthers. God, there's a lot of gods in this universe. Gotta remember all of them, right? Dormammu. Who makes up these names? Okay, this is an alpha issue. So what that tells you is that just like everything else in the Marvel Universe, whenever they do a big story arc, they do an alpha. And then when they get all the way done with their big long storyline telling as it passes between the tied-in books, then they'll give you an Omega, which kind of wraps everything up. It definitely helps if you have read any of the Apocalypse storylines or watched the movie where Apocalypse was the main character. I don't know. I feel like he's been in many of them. Dragon is Shu Lao. Oh, thank you. Shu Lao. It's like I just couldn't remember it. So this is interesting to me. So the premise here is that there are two separate kind of universe or timelines that have occurred out of the Apocalypse storyline. One is one in which what they call, basically say, the Professor X line has happened, is completed, and that one, I guess, is when Apocalypse has been defeated, and there's one otherwise. So this one is really crazy because it's mostly Sabretooth hanging out with, I think, his little crazy wild, I think it's Wild Child, is that right? His little like feral little version of himself. And this one has a really interesting relationship between Rogue and somebody that you would not expect, because it does not have her tied to Remy. There's some very awkward interactions between them because it's clear that they have had relationship, but now not. She's married to somebody else in this neck of the woods, which is, I guess it kind of makes sense. But it gives you, it's one of those things, I don't know if it actually has happened in the books, like the Apocalypse books, if this was a timeline story that they already told and I just don't remember it, or if this is like truly some new thing they've introduced here. But they tease it for a long time in the book. They're kind of like, that Rogue and Remy aren't together, but they keep on saying her husband or the person she's with, but they don't ever say who it is until we get most of the way through the book. So I think this is going to be really important because it starts talking about, I think it's the Son of Apocalypse. There's one of them. Man, I should have written down their names. But I know that what we're heading toward is that there's an Age of Revelation, which is is another character that comes out of the Apocalypse storyline. It's not Mephisto. No! It was already Mephisto, some other storyline, not this one. I mean, spoiler alert, you guys found that out already, right? For the Doom storyline. Anyway, I hope you guys are reading that stuff. That was like 3 weeks ago, so I hope you guys got glommed onto that. That storyline is awesome too. All right, so that's as much as I can tell you without spoiling a bunch of stuff. It also has Havoc in this one. If you like old school X-Men, this is definitely going to take you right down Nostalgiaville because you'll like getting to see the characters again. Oh my gosh, this was so gut-wrenching. Oh my gosh. I should know better than reading anything Dynamite that has got characters that I love in it. Because I always think it's going to be just kind of like fluff piece nonsense where it's just like, oh, look, it's the cartoons I watched when I was growing up. And it's just kind of like, But no, it's never that way. It's always very serious and it makes me care about the characters again and be like, what? Oh gosh, just punch me in the face. This is Palmiotti, right? It is Palmiotti, which makes me very happy about it. Nick says the names of comic book gods and demons may be dreamed up by the same twisted geniuses who think up names of medications. Yes. Agreed. Of course, for old school comic book characters, I used to think that they would just like put the two sounds together. Right? Just Gorgo. Zib-Zab. all those really old books are so funny that way. Okay, back to Blue Falcon. Okay, when we meet the Blue Falcon in this book, he is pretty much just being a normal guy and has a normal dog. We know who he is. But think kind of like he's Bruce Wayne, but really nice. And has a dog that it's like his best friend. But he also has enough money that he's hired somebody to make some kind of contraption for him, chip or something that does something special when we first see it. So what's neat is that the story sets up a relationship between him and his employee, where the very first time you see the employee's face, he's like giving hard, angry side eye. So you're like right away set to be like, I don't think this guy is on the up and up, or is a good guy, or he's up to something. He's pissed off already. And that colors the entire story, where you end up with tragedy in the last 2 or 3 pages. It's gonna really, honestly, punch you in the gut big time. I'm pretty sure everything's gonna work out, because in comic books, especially ones based on cartoons, they can't leave us that way, right? They're not gonna just leave us like that. Anyway, the Blue Falcon's got really great muscles and good costume work in this. And I love the dog design. He's super cool. So if you like the Space Ghost stuff that's going through Dynamite, is that same kind of mood and tone. Really good stuff. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is the first, I think, big title out of new company. My brain is gonna stop for what the actual new game. It's such a cool name too. No.
Ignition.
Gosh. Ignition. By my good friend Philip Sablik, who used to be Boom Studios. Boom Studios used to be him and I think Ross Ritchie, and they ended up selling that company, and that got sold to PRH, I believe. And then obviously he wasn't done with making comic books, so now he's got his own company called Ignition, in which they've got some really cool books in the slates. Y'all keep paying attention. Was he on Comic Industry Insiders? Yes! Awesome. By the way, he, whenever you have the opportunity to listen to him talk, if he ever has a public speaking thing, listen to him. He would be the best TED talker ever, because he always has really great, like to the point, but good story tie-ins. I don't know. He's just, I could listen to Philip talk about anything, honestly, but he does get me to like get excited about his projects, because he doesn't just like show us the books that he's got offered. He actually talks about himself and about the passion that his companies have for comic books in general. So it just makes me love him as a human being and understand him. So, all right. So Murder Podcast. I like her cocked head. That's kind of telling. Okay, so I don't think it's a secret about Murder Podcast that Murder Podcast is about not connected group of people who like murder podcasts. I think this one has a bunch of. It's the one that has a bunch of women that like kind of just are friends, can interact with each other. And just a couple of them like murder podcasts. I think one of them is actually a police person, but everyone else has like one works in a has a little boutique, and as it says in her little bio thing that it gives you, like she only has the boutique so she has access to first choice at the clothes. You know, we've all met those people that have businesses because they love what they carry, right? Me. So what's happening is that they're tuning into this podcast, and when the podcast comes on, when they have like earbuds or whatever on, I don't know if I haven't seen them where they're listening to it like loudly. It's almost like they go into a trance and they start repeating whatever the murder podcast person is saying. They're repeating exactly the same thing, but they become very murdery, and they don't remember it at all when they wake up. They're not cognizant of what they're doing. The things that they're saying that as part of the murder podcast have nothing to do with the things that they're doing. So it's not like the murder podcast is saying, and we found that the body was bludgeoned heavily or whatever. And that's not what's going on. Whatever they're saying and doing is not the same thing. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know how all the people are tied together as it pertains to the murder podcast or how that's going to draw them together, but there's no reason they would ever introduce a group of friends if they were not going to have that be important to the storyline. But Jeremy Hahn, thank you, my friend, for making really crazy stuff. Just so that you know, it is now currently like most everybody I know of a certain age, so maybe 25 to 70, is a little bit obsessed with true crime. A little bit obsessed with true crime. And I think for me, it's because all true crime podcasts and or shows present a problem that gets resolved at the end. And if you have a life that's full of a little bit of chaos in which sometimes you don't have any control, it feels, even though it's murdery or whatever, the content, it feels like you have like, okay, well then the good guys won, or they figured out who it is, something, you know. So I don't think that all of the female world of a certain age is plotting to kill people. That's not what they're listening for it for. I think it's because it makes us feel a little more secure because there's an answer. The puzzle is fixed. I don't know if we're going to fix this puzzle, but Murder Podcast is awesome. Racer X. Okay, so this is going to be me telling you, I don't know if what they present in this book is actually the way that Racer X starts as a character, but it's really cool if it is. And if it isn't, they should start using this because this is awesome. So in this book, I believe Racer X is a guy who just happens to be, I think, the older brother of the guy who ends up being Speed Racer. And they're part of a racing family. You guys can stop me at any time if any of these things are wrong. Part of a racing family that the dad wants him, this older brother, very like directly says, you cannot start racing until you spend multiple years like designing race cars or working on race cars. So you understand how they work so that you can drive them properly or whatever. So it does kind of feel like a lot like, you know, the Kung Fu movies where they, you know, like you could immediately go in Kung Fu because you have extra ability, but your master makes you wax on, wax off a whole bunch before because he knows that you're going to use that at some point because he's wise. So in this case, it doesn't work out. So he actually says, I'm not waiting around. I am already ready. I have all the skills and I'm going to go do this. So he actually goes and takes a job with one of their main competitors. And then I'm not going to tell you anything else because the storyline gets real cool from there. And I don't want to mess up your ability to enjoy it. But just know, he does not end up doing really what he wants to be doing, which is to race on a racing team. It draws him into a different kind of life. So it's if you like Mark Russell, which you should. It's like I just realized it's Mark Russell. No wonder why I like this book so much. Like anything Mark Russell writes now. But even if you don't know anything about Speed Racer, you don't know anything about Racer X, you don't care anything about Hanna-Barbera cartoons, you don't, just try it. It's exceptionally good. I will probably read Racer X #2. And that's saying a lot because usually I just cannot fit in my life, you know, second and third issues of just normally good books. It has to be good, really great books for me to read the extra ones. So that'll tell you something. It Killed Everyone But Me. Cool Mad Cave book. Out of all the books that came out this week, especially #1s, this is probably not the highest on my list. It's really good, but it also, how do I say this? Other than having exceptional art, really exceptional art, I don't think it gives me enough in this first issue to really make me ravenously want to read more. I'll probably read #2 just to see if it gets me hooked more. So this one shows you a girl who is in a situation where it appears that like a bunch of family members or friends are killed. Oh, good. Thank you, Triple W. Maybe you can help me love this more if I watch your show about it. So it feels like there's a bunch of people that get killed when she's younger, and that she's the only person that survives such a thing. And it also, I think I'm right about this, that the whole world believes that she did away with the bad guy in that time period. So he's not around anymore, so people don't worry about them. But there's a new set of murdery things that start happening, really scary, horrible. If you're like, horror, this is all about you. Really scary, horribly murdery things start happening again. And she goes and checks on something that if this person was truly gone, she would not need to go check on anything. So just think about something that might be able to live for many, many years and not have to be in the public. There's only a couple of choices, y'all. But yeah, also watch Triple B's show about it. He'll get you more. But I will tell you that the art is really gorgeous / gross. Got good bloody stuff. All right. Now, sometimes I will tell you that stuff that's Valiant, you don't need any background to be able to enjoy or get. This one rides a line that's really close. The reason I say that is because this does introduce a whole bunch of new characters, which are the new Harbinger team, but also part of the Harbinger organization are some of the old Harbinger folks. Like if you're a fan of Pete Stanchek, who looks just like a normal guy, but also can activate any psyop activity, or even if you just thought about maybe having a couple of genes that might be psyop activated, he can get you revved, and he is so powerful. Everyone is understandably like respectfully distant from him because he's that powerful. But they're in this, the telling of this, there was like some kind of underground group that has started to like spray paint things on buildings or wear hats or whatever that basically say Harada was right. And if you don't know who Harada is, that will also make you be like, what? Why do I care? So Toyo Harada was the big bad in all the original Valiant. And he died during the last ownership of Valiant by a different company. And hypothetically, if they keep on following the same rules for Valiant, if a Valiant character is dead, they don't bring them back, which I've always found to be very lovely because then it means something if someone dies. It's not just like, oh, we're going to see them next week in their zombie version, or they're going to come back in another universe or whatever. So that has not been true so far. I'm happy that they're sticking with it. But Livewire is in this book, but not in the way that you're used to seeing her as her own, like a person. This seems more like she is maybe like almost maybe like in a big vat of something or in a container, and it's just like she's connected, hardwired to things. And think about her a little bit like the way I saw her in this one was, remember in Power Rangers where they had like the like electronic talking head guy? Can't remember his name. They would ask about things, they would help them get stuff done. That's the way that she feels. In the original universe, she was so powerful. Sordon, thank you. She always felt like because she could control anything with electronics, she really could, if you think about all your life, what things have electronics in it, including like she could take satellites from space and throw them at you on the Earth. So she was really overpowered. So maybe this is their way of kind of like getting her power so that it's not so overexpressed, I guess. But anyway, the new characters are cool. There's some like kind of like there's one called Black Sheep who feels like kind of a bad guy. Some of their powers are very evident, some aren't. Nerfed her. I don't know. It's kind of like I read it, and maybe if you read it, you'll take it differently. Maybe we're just not seeing her out and about yet. Maybe she's just like working from home base. Maybe she's in space. I don't know. But anyway, when you're reading everything so fast for review, I know that I missed stuff. So I apologize. If you ever read a book after I've done my review and you're like, no, I think Miss Jen missed stuff, that's really why. It's because I'm like doing my best to get all of it and remember all of it and not get it mixed up with the other books that I've read for the week. Welcome to being old. That's me. So anyway, I like it. This is the second book from the Valiant Beyond line that I've read, and I've enjoyed both of them. I'm just happy for Valiant to continue to be around and not disappear as a universe because it's always been so terrific. So for fans of it like Jay and I are, we're happy to have it still. Ultimate Wolverine. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let me see if I can remember exactly what goes on here. This is a book that has a ton of battle scenes in it. So all the art in the series has been so great. I don't mind so much, but every once in a while I'm like going, I just need some help. I need some help understanding why there's so much battle in this. But I will tell you without spoiling a bunch, this is, if you're a Sentinel fan, you've seen the Sentinels already in this universe. They're incredible. This one, for some reason, someone's going to have to help me understand why it's so, but there is a Sentinel in this issue that in its chest looks like it's the head of Cyclops. And that guy's terrifying, the big Sentinel part. But anyway, this is all about like them thinking they've done in Wolverine and they haven't. And he comes back and lets them know very gruesomely that he's still fine. So I'm still enjoying this series. This isn't like there were a couple issues a few ago that I was like, oh my gosh, this is some of the best stuff I've ever read. This is more normal, moving the storyline forward and doing some good battle stuff. So still excited about it. Oh my goodness. I knew I shouldn't have put this book back because I know that it has a bunch of information that I was going to still need to know for you. By the way, it's cool to see characters in this series talking now about, like, we've been saying it at the register for a couple of weeks because the shoe did drop in One World Under Doom number 6, I think, where you actually find out the big secret about who's behind everything, what's actually going on. And Doom's just like, he's kind of like, lets it drop. He's, like he's been for a while being very altruistic and kind of like treating people nicely, but that the shoe really does drop in the last issue. But he's kind of like destroying everybody that isn't kind of bowing to him. So this is a real open battle between him. It actually has a page in here where it actually says it's Doom versus everyone. So it's Fantastic Four, X-Men, Avengers, really everybody comes for him. So he's still way strong enough to handle all of this. And there is a character that somehow gets formed here that it is at its heart. It is Reed Richards, but also some other bits he's put together. Like he has got in the center of his chest, like Captain Adam's symbol. He's wearing Doctor Strange's like cloak. There's some other things he has on too. So that's what he's wearing when he goes into this like epic last battle with Doom. So if you ever wanted to see what would happen if Doom and Reed really went after it, then that's what this book is. And that's, I have to leave it like that because otherwise it spoils a bunch of stuff. But look at this cover, y'all. Look at how cool it is. It's amazing. I was going to see if I could figure out who's doing this art. No, it just says BH, whoever that is. I like the really bright colors in it. It makes me quite happy. Oh, goodness. Nova Centurion. Okay. This one has both of our Nova characters. So Imperial War. This is where I have trouble when I read so many with like main character Marvels. Ben Harvey? I don't think so. Richard Rider. Richard Rider. Okay. So just in case you don't know what's going on in Imperial War, at the very beginning, there was, oh, the cover of the Doom one. Oh, thank you. The person, Ben Harvey. Thank you. Gosh, thank you. Yeah, Ben Harvey's got awesome art. Hope I see more of his artwork. Okay, so what started the Imperial War is that someone poisoned members of the 5 council leaders. So it created a war between Wakanda, the Shi'ar, the Kree, I'm going to get them all wrong, Skrulls, and Spartoi, which I'd never heard of the Spartoi before this, honestly. But you've got some dead members, and one missing one. So Hulkling is missing at this point, so we don't know where he is. But this one's kind of like a head-to-head between oh my gosh, Star-Lord and Richard Rider, and this like, so the way I understand it is there's like this brain bridge thing that happens, but that Richard Rider can't make the connection for some reason, and most of the issue is about him trying to figure out what is going on, because without it, I guess that he can't do his powers or something. So that gets revealed for like what's happening behind the scenes. And one of my favorite groups of Marvel characters who I don't think has been mentioned at all in this Imperial War yet. Not even in the parts that we actually, they told us in Imperial number 3 or 4, when they actually told us who been puppeteering all this stuff. I don't think they've ever mentioned this group of characters. I'm not going to tell you who they are because it wrecks everything, but yeah, it's cool. I can't wait for them to like see where all of this stuff wraps up and how it's going to affect like the space version of our superhero universe, because that's kind of what they're doing. They're setting up a new how all of those guys interact with each other, which is neat. Captain America. Oh my word. They need to like have less books in the same week that deal with Doom. That's just what I gotta say about that. That's tough. All right, it's Chip Zdarsky goodness. What you've learned so far is that Captain America Steve Rogers comes back out of the ice, but not during the time when we actually expected him to, from the original comic books. He actually comes back, finds out that there's a different Captain America that's currently acting as Captain America, who he himself shows up out of the eye to get the superpower stuff, but in order to fight in Vietnam, is that right? So he's been around a lot longer. People accept him. And the regular Captain America goes right back into the military. Well, the whole series so far has been about the fact that Steve is starting to figure out that, or at least other people are trying to convince him that maybe that wasn't the best choice. It wasn't the best choice. So this is still that storyline being drawn along. And I love their outfits so much. They start talking about like the for the other Captain America, why they gave him a dark star, right? So they're like, you can see him on the front there. Why do you have a dark star? So very cool Captain America storyline. Very happy about it. Tales from the Nightlands. This is a Star Wars tale that takes place when Obi-Wan does have Anakin as his Padawan, but both of them are much younger. So think of Anakin as close to the age as you see him in the, what is the first one where you see him as a little kid doing the pod racing, right? And he finally gets to do it. This is definitely after Qui-Gon has been killed, but they are out doing jobs for like the Jedi, in which, of course, Anakin already is showing his true colors and saying that, like, why aren't we out doing important things, like doing battling and things? Why are we doing this stuff? Because he's been sent to the home world of the, I forgot the, is it Twi'leks? I think that's Twi'lek. Their leader has passed on, and so they're going to represent the Jedi in there's some like ceremony stuff. And the granddaughter of this person is sad because she did not get to say goodbye to her grandfather, which she was promised and she didn't get to have. And so she believes there's this old lore in which she should be able to, at the conjunction of the stars, which just happens to happen during the time they're going to have the final ceremony for this leader who's laying in state, that she can chant these things, and then that she'll be able to like just be able to have one last talk with them. Think a little bit like Dia de los Muertos, but with like very specific, like just to their culture and just only during this one alignment and whatever. So, but something really badly goes on. She gets told by her parents not to do this. She's forbidden. And Anakin's been forbidden to help by Obi-Wan. You know exactly what's going to happen as soon as that happens, because all that boy hears is, you cannot do this. You should not do this. And he says, if it's not a good enough reason to tell me why I can't do this, I'm going to do this. So what happens afterwards is super terrifying, and oh my gosh. And this is a first appearance book. So if you like first appearance in Star Wars, although they have lots of them nowadays, but this one feels like a first appearance of a character that's kind of cool. Red coat. Yes. All right. This one says it's a first ghost prelude. I'm going to tell you 100%. They don't come right out and say who the first ghost is. I think it can be inferred by this storyline, but this one takes our main character, Simon Pure, who is anything but, as you'll come to know, and throws him back during the time of the Madisons being in the White House. And this is when the British come back to burn Washington in retaliation for the rebellion. And they start the fire in the White House. Simon just happens to be there because he came for, like, he got offered a game of poker and some free food by the chef there. And he's still wearing a red coat, so he's from the British side. So, you know, they would just assume that he's a bad guy if he's in there. But he meets a woman who is running into the fire, which he cannot understand. And he initially says, well, it sucks to be her. But then, of course, he can't help himself. As much as he says that he's a ruffian and doesn't care about anything, he really does often make the choices that are very heartwarming. So this one's really cool. The return of a character that we have not seen since issue 1. I'll let you guys try to figure it out. Don't miss it, y'all. Absolute Batman. Waylon, who is our Killer Croc there, when last we saw him, had an interaction with Batman and could have ended him, I guess. Chose not to, but then asked Batman to do something for him that Batman is unwilling to do. Period. Not going to happen. And so that sets them at odds with each other, even though for the whole book before they kind of were seeing eye to eye. And then you see the after effects of what happened. You do know from the last issue that Bruce was operated on. He has all this veining going through him now, which would make you to believe that he probably has the same venom that Bane has. We haven't seen that yet for sure. And you find out that all of his friends, so remember, he's friends with all of the people that end up being in our universe, end up being kind of like bad guys, right? Those are his best friends. You find out that while Bruce was knocked out and getting this stuff done to him, that they also were being beat up or whatever by Bane. So you get to actually see their origin stories as bad guys in this issue. So if you like, it's also the first appearance of a character officially, but then all of these other ones, you're like, okay, they're surely going to look back on these as being first appearances of these characters as their bad characters or their whatever. That tail's like 30 feet long. It is true. And I love him because his face is like really long and crocodilian, where all his teeth are like this. Looks so unnatural. Small island. Yeah. So it's great. This is terrific. It's hard to stomach. There's a lot of damage that happens to everybody. So just know. Oh, this is so good. You guys have no idea how many people of the ages, like I can drive and I'm in high school all the way through all the 20s, that have been coming in recently and getting into DC. Specifically, they're looking for New 52 books. They don't care about the character. They're after trying to read all of that material again, which is going to be hard because a lot of that stuff's out of print. And then anything Rebirth, all that Rebirth material they're trying to find too, which makes me feel so good. There's a whole new generation that's going to be interested in comic books and be excited about it, want to talk about it. They're interested in characters. And number one amongst all of the characters that we get asked for is Red Hood. They love Red Hood. They love anything Nightwing. They like anything Arsenal. They like all that stuff. Problem is a lot of that stuff is impossible to get. We're waiting on a shipment now of anything we can get. But this Red Hood story is so good, y'all. It says, out of Gotham, not out of bullets. This is him not in Gotham, but instead in, I'm just going to say New Orleans, but it's probably a parish that's not New Orleans, but it's very much that area. And in his life, he's got the Huntress there. And who was the other person? The other person that felt to me like not somebody that has been around before, but it is brand new for this. And their name is something French. Yeah, it did give us some awesome stories. I remember New 52 being great. That was about when I started the store here in the Houston area. And I was unprepared for the demand of how many issues I was going to be selling of those books. But I learned. So anyway, this one is 100% awesome. Do not miss it. Don't have regrets. Go get it tomorrow. There's almost no way that you won't like it. And yeah, this gets some pretty serious. Oh, did I finish? I could have gone longer on that one. Okay. So there are great books. The ones I did not get to, again, are the Punisher #1, which looks amazing. I should have just cut one open and read it, honestly. I'm going to be regretful about that. And what was the other one? There was another big release that I did not get to read. That's the problem when you get like Kryptonite Spectrum #2. You get to read that one. Anyway, there's a ton of good things. Castle's Corner coming about that Punisher? I would think so, since that's his favorite, right? So, yeah, tons of good books this week. Here is your heads up reminder. If you liked books that you read last week, make sure that you put it into your queue for your brain when you go to your LCS this week to tell them what things you want to add to your pull box now. Because now, for the things that were released last week, is when we put in our orders for that next issue. So if you don't tell us for a couple of weeks, it might be too late. So for your Batman #2s, make sure you add Batman. Make sure you add all of the #2s from those series that came out last week. And we're like, whoa, so good to you. Don't let them get by. I don't want you to miss out on them. If you are traveling or don't have a home comic shop, just know that you can look up ones by zip code using Comic Shop Locator, unless that's dead. And then you can use Google's very easily. And they're also working on another one that's just comic book related for you guys. And barring that, all the stores that you see doing live shows on the EXP are very happy to start a pull box for you and ship your things out every single week very inexpensively. It's definitely true for me, and I'm sure everybody else has shows on here. Would love to do that for you. So if you don't have a local comic shop anywhere near you, and we're your closest local comic shop here on the Experience, that's what we're here for, honestly. We want to make sure that everybody has access to local comic shop feelings, discussions, all the warm fuzzies that come with being able to walk in and talk about the things you love and to be able to get the merchandise you want. So that's what we're here for. Thank you so much, Jay. I am super thankful for you. Do not go away. Wonderland comes up next. What is their theme today?
They are going to be doing sci-fi tonight, and unfortunately, we won't have Omri tonight. He's feeling a little under the weather, so Wonderland's going to be the last show tonight.
Yeah, Henri just came back from conventions, and just, if you've ever seen Henri work at a convention when he's selling his awesome comic books, he stands the whole time in front of his booth, and every single person that walks by the booth, he pitches the book to. It's not like normal where you see a guy sitting behind a counter and he's usually drawing on something or playing on his phone or whatever. Henri is on 100% of the hours that he's at a convention and engaging with the public. That's how he does sellouts, because he makes sure everybody that walks by got a chance to get his books. So that also means that he's just worn out when he gets done with the convention. So our hearts to you, hearts and prayers. Henri, I hope you feel better very soon, because Henri and I are planning to be able to do a show together, because we'd like to do live shows where we bounce it back and forth to each other. So we'll let you guys know when we're going to do such a thing. Stay tuned for Wonderland. And if you have the ability to do 2 screens, I guess you can come and see me over on Comic Book Shopping Network for new comic books. And I also have a bunch of all things DVDs today. Sometimes you just want to have fun stuff. All right, everybody. I will see you guys next time for a minute to skim it. Bye.